Hey, Chris.
Oh, it's gonna be a good one, man.
Oh, yeah. When you get all yawny on us,
And
it
my
doesn't
eyes are
mean you're
watering.
bored. It means you're getting overwhelmed with the energy of the spirits.
Making space, babies. Making space.
That's true. Well, anyway, I am so happy to have our guest on today. I know her personally. I have coached her before. Uh, she is my friend Laura, and I met her when we lived in the same building in Bundang, Korea. And I was on the 15th floor, if I remember correctly, and you were on the third. And she started hosting wine nights, and we started doing tarot together. And she is also an excellent tarot reader. And I just have so many memories of her apartment, so many memories with her and her now fiance Dustin. And so I'm so excited that you're here. So thank you, Laura.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here too.
Great. So yeah, we're gonna start the party with Chris today, since I already know her. All right, Chris.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's so. Hi, Laura. Thank you for joining us. It's a
Thank you
pleasure.
for having me.
Absolutely. It's gonna take a couple of moments and just sink in. Um, but what I saw originally was like something spinning around on its axis, and what it is one of those foil pinwheels that you may have seen, as a young girl, like in a store. Right. So some of them were tall on big straws and some of them were short, but you would blow on them or catch them in the wind and it'd be like red foil with the silver backing.
hmm
And I have yet to actually ask, why they're showing me that. So let me step in for a second here. Simple things, sparkly things getting your attention. Playfulness and innocence, and awe and wonder at very simple items in life. And this is a reminder of your playful nature, and you being very light and leaning into those aspects of Laura when the world was your oyster and you haven't necessarily been jaded by adulthood and picked up just weight of society or expectations, experience. And there's that spark inside of you still yet that you haven't let go of. And this is not dire, but it's, you always come back to like, wait, this should be fun. Like, this is simple. Let's just go run around in the yard with this thing and watch all the colors. It's a reminder, and I'm sure that more will make sense over the next hour, but it's a reminder to keep things light and playful, to not take things so seriously. I don't know if this is something that you actually played with when you were younger, but if there was like a favorite simple $2 toy from a store that maybe your father or your mother would have picked up for you, like, okay, fine, just throw the Hot Wheel in the car when you're at the grocery store just to kind of keep you quiet. Those things still, I mean, no matter how old you are, still feel good and remind you of your truer nature. So not the one that's picked up habits, conditions, et cetera, that are just imposed on us by walking around in this world. But those are little moments that, quite frankly, feel really sacred. And it almost then feels, I'm sorry about the ding, I got to turn up that, but it almost then feels, yeah, okay. Identify what actually is sacred to you. So imagine then that you have a space, and it could be like a small little space in your home, or it could be a space that you create energetically in your own mind when you're meditating, where you can have effects that are very much like this pinwheel, things that are very special and sacred to you that have a space there and serve a purpose. So maybe the pinwheel or a similar toy reminds you of innocence. And then perhaps there's something else or some other item that feels sacred to you for another reason. You can begin to collect these, and either it's almost, it's meant more to be an energetic and imaginative experience. So when you close your eyes and you go into meditation, or you're just trying to get your wits about you, to create this space. And what I'm seeing is like a teepee, but it's very light. And so like very muted, like euchres and yellows and light blues. So it feels light, and it has just a few simple items sitting on the outside of where the fire would be, that you can use energetically to help you connect with other aspects of yourself. So I'm sure there's a lot more here just in that, but I've never seen a pinwheel before. How about it?
That's fascinating.
So, it's interesting, Chris, because I got something very similar, because I know, as you and Christina, that she is getting married. But when I first opened up your records, Laura, I heard like a big congratulations and like white confetti, and it's like, yay. So there's like huge celebration with everybody on your side, right? And the next thing that came through is, make sure you have dogs in the wedding. That was my next thing that I got. And I was just like, okay. Because also, I don't know if you were like thinking about just eloping or having a small wedding, but they want to encourage you to have a wedding. They want you to celebrate, and they want you to make it yours, which is very similar to what Chris was saying. It's like, make it totally yours, make it playful like you are. And yeah, make it yours, and definitely have a wedding if you were thinking about eloping, because it's, a little bit of an investment to have a wedding. That's very true. But there's a huge energy of celebration behind it. And they want you to honor that excitement that you have, like being a bride and being in the moment of it and feeling special, because you deserve that. And here, it's your time to be the princess that you are, really. And so I also see that there's two sides to this, because there's a part of you that wants to be like a little humble and like cool about it. And it's like, yeah, I'm getting married. Well, of course we were going to get married. Like, it's been several years. Yeah. How long you guys been together now, by the way?
11.
Wow. Yeah. It's been 11 years. So it's like, there's a part of you that I see that's like modest and like, yeah, no big deal, whatever. But then there's like another side where you're like, wait a minute, this feels good. And I really want to maybe embrace a little bit of this, because this is going to be a good moment for me. So I want to encourage you to go that way. Next thing. So I saw your bakery again, but I saw that it's kind of like it's been kind of pushed aside a little bit, because there's a little bit of life that has to like arrange itself. And one of the things is like the house, which I already knew that you were trying to figure out. And of course your wedding. So, but I definitely get that today, perhaps you would want to ask a couple of questions about your job, because sorry, I've been looking in this light. I can't see anything I wrote. It's like I'm blind. So work, it's just not speaking to the soul right now. And would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not speaking to the soul. It's like you're going through the motions. And so they do want to address that. Perhaps you want to talk about that today. And yep, that's pretty much all I have. So we can go into anything that we said into more detail if you have a question about it, or if you have your own questions, now is your time.
I did wanted to comment that we're making sure to put our dog in a tux for the wedding.
Oh, good.
And we are initially having a courthouse wedding, except we plan on having a hand fasting afterwards, so that we can celebrate with people in a time where it's safer. But the more I'm planning each step, the more I actually am interested and excited about having the actual hand fasting. Initially, we weren't even going to have rings, but I ended up getting them anyway.
Yeah, I know. I saw it.
Well,
It was pretty.
thank you. As far as the pinwheels, I find that really interesting because I never really played with pinwheels as a kid, but in Korea, one of the most beautiful places I went to was this huge hill with pinwheels all over it,
Mm.
and kids were playing around it, and just even their parents, who Korean parents tend to be rather bogged down by society pretty heavily, but they were running around these pinwheels as well with their kids. So that's a really interesting set of imagery for me because I like to step back and enjoy the moment, and something that I have to remind myself rather often. So that really hit home for me. um,
So when you think of the pinwheels, what emotions does it spark and how does it make you feel?
it it just it makes me feel calm in the sense that not everything has to be overcomplicated.
Hmm.
So the wind is just keeping this pinwheel turning, and it's the simplest relationship that there is, but you can enjoy it anyway. And I really like colors.
If you had to put an emotion to it, because you've used feel, so that's an adjective, but if there's an emotion to it.
I would say that it's a simplistic delight.
Yeah. And so I'm going to get a little spiritual here with you.
Mhm.
And I believe I used the word sacred when I was defining how you would put these things around here. And while Christina was talking, I was like, well, I don't know, what's the definition of sacred? Like, what's the Webster definition of sacred? And it wasn't satisfying to me. So I'm not going to use it here. Then there's the word holy, which for me can be a trigger word because then it makes me go into Catholicism and bang a sharp left, and that's not it as well. But the definition I pulled up is something that's consecrated, that is reverent, that reminds you of the divine. And let's just leave Jesus and God and anyone else out of it right now. But there's an opportunity for you to begin to create this space. It feels like you're going to have a lot going on. So beyond the wedding, which I was not aware of, but it feels like you're going to need a place that's all yours. Somewhere where you can go that belongs to you and you alone, where you keep things that are important to you. And so if this one is just like simplistic delights, which is also in my mind, it's like joy, right? It's like something that's so like a trinket can bring so much joy, right? So yes, of course, it's a $3 pinwheel that could fall apart with the right gust of wind or get smashed in a grocery bag, whatever it might be. But it's in that moment, it makes you feel that simple delight. And these are really powerful anchors of items that could be sacred or holy that are worth you seeing yourself as perfect in goodness and righteousness and just a perfect being, a perfect human with all of our imperfections. So it would serve you well, right, over the next few weeks leading up to this and having the dog in a tux, of course, which I'd love to see a picture of, to begin to create this space where you can go to, even if it's just for 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day. It could be a teepee, it could be a meditation station, an altar. I think this is meant more to be imaginative than it is to be real and tangible, for you to have this resource inside of yourself to recognize the divinity within you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I got to say about that for now.
It definitely resonates as far as something that I know that I do need. Um, I, especially with my work, as Christina said, is not satisfying anymore. I enjoyed it 2 years ago when I first had it because it was different. But on top of that, we're also finding a new house, um, partly because the current situation is not very comfortable. So creating that space I can see as very important, especially right now.
Cool. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
As far as my job, Christina, I don't. I'm still unsure about when I intend to leave my current position, but I know that I will. I just don't really know that I'm ready yet. So that's
Yeah.
something that I'm really curious about.
Well, then there you go. The curiosity is going to lead the race here. Okay. So you're about to get a house and you have stable employment.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely hang on to the job for right now to get the house. I think
I
you
ha-
already know that.
I
You
have
probably
that
already
feeling.
thought that through.
Yes.
Then you might have a little more space to breathe when you and Dustin, and I'm hearing like 3 months in to a new house,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm kind of getting more of like late spring that this house happens.
Mm-hmm.
So late spring, and then about 3 or 4 months, so maybe by end of summer, and then you can kind of reevaluate it. And what they want to tell you is that they're all about like helping you follow your dreams, which, if I don't know if they're the same, I guess I could ask and she would be like, are they the same?
That would be interesting to find out.
Yeah. Well, and then you can look at your options, because you do need, the human Laura needs a level of comfort and a little bit of a level of like reassurance.
Mhm.
So like to reevaluate it, and you're very connected, beyond as well, just like me. So to have you all make the decision together would be good. So probably you don't really have to worry about that until like the end of summer. But the question is, how can you endure to that time? Like, how can you make the situation a little bit more palatable for yourself? And here's what it is you are a big connector. You're a big person of connection. I already know that myself, but I'm being told that again. And it's evidenced by how you bring people together. So more of community, being in groups. And I know that we do have kind of an online community group like that, we meet sometimes for Sunday day drinking, but a little bit different than that, because now that the pandemic is here, it's like harder to get together with people. But like, you like real connection, like your Dungeons and Dragons groups and things like that. So staying connected to people where you're kind of a facilitator is like your jam.
Mm-hmm.
And even though every day, you're like, oh, here goes work, that's kind of like something that you look forward to, is all these events, all these moments of connection. And you like 101 connection, but you just love the power of a group. So stick with the groups, lady.
Yeah, I try as much as I can.
So I'm not getting that you're in danger of losing your job anytime soon, right?
I wouldn't think so.
Right. And it's like, and so what I see you is like, just like standing by people completely frustrated with the mundane task of passing out paper and checking on people's progress. Like, okay, all right. And you're like, holy shit. Like, I am like ready for my head to explode, because it's like the same thing every day. But there's, to Christina's point, while you're buying the house, of course, right? You don't want to switch anything, but I'd like to focus a little bit more on what's next.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it does feel like there's this delta of what's next for Laura. What do you want to do? And it's like, until that's clearly defined, right? And I'm going to use this in the M word, and you're actually beginning to manifest it, right? Then that vacuum is going to exist. So we have to clean up what's current in order to make space for what's next.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing that you don't know. Now these gnats are here, Christina. That's so weird. He's like shouting through Zoom. So what?
Good. Take all the gnats.
We'll leave them here in
Send
San
them
Luis.
over to you too, Laura, through the mic.
Hey, no.
So what is next for you? What feels like it's for your highest good? Like, what gets you excited?
That's a really good question.
Hmm.
Like Christina said, I like being the bridge between people. I like facilitating a space where people can feel comfortable and enjoy other people's company. I've entertained the idea of owning a tea house or something like a cafe.
Mhm.
I enjoy baking, and I've been told that I should own a bakery, but I feel like that's too easy for people to just come in and leave. Whereas a tea house or a cafe would be a lot easier for somebody to enjoy those baked goods, but stay and relax and chat and enjoy a moment of respite. I think my goal eventually.
So, and some of that feels safe. So I want to unwind. And what I heard was Vienna, right? And is thinking of these like just majestic old cafes where writers, authors, philosophers would sit and, you know, so that's sort of a feel, and that feels good. But I want to distill it down even further. So when you're baking, what's the real adjective there? What is it about baking that we could distill down? What emotion do you want
My
people?
Well, part of the reason, so I bake for two different reasons. One, it's a huge stress reliever for me because I like the chemistry aspects of it, but also I give away everything that I bake. I I rarely keep it for myself. Honestly, I just enjoy giving it to people.
How does it make you feel when you give it?
Um, I just I feel good about myself because I'm brightening somebody's day for that moment that they're receiving something from me. That I could help them just lighten up some of the troubles that might be bothering them at that moment.
Okay. So we've got brightening someone's day, community, right? Just enjoying company and having a place for people to gather, and you're creating the space. And so when your eyes, of course, light up when you're referring to this, I think it's entirely possible. And we know, of course, with COVID and all the 2020, 2021 feels that a lot of small businesses that do this have suffered. The flip side of that coin is that there's also a lot of opportunity if you have some cash at hand, or you know some people that have access to cash, to be able to pick up equipment space pretty inexpensively and get going.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So by focusing on these keywords, right, building community, having a space for
Mm-hmm.
people to come together and filling this void that we've all experienced over the past 12, 13 months, that's a great thing. It's a feeling or a sentiment that you can then also create, put in a little energetic ball, put it into your little like mental sacred space, and then draw on that. So when you do have these moments of frustration, like, what am I doing in my current role? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you're holding on to it because the house, but it's also providing an opportunity and a pathway for you to be able to create what's next for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And holding on to the way that these words make you feel is going to keep that spark alive. And it could look like something a little bit different, but I could assure you that the words that you use, the feelings and the emotions that you use to describe that won't change. The mechanics of it might, but those things won't.
Mm-hmm.
And we need more of that, as a civilization, as a society. Um, is that helpful?
Yeah. Um, you both mentioned about finding a space to endure until I can reach those goals, and that's exactly the type of space that I would need, is to draw upon those aspects whenever I feel like I can't really continue with what I'm doing right now. I know it's a necessity. And so I've always felt like my previous job helped me prepare for the job I was going to have next.
Mhm.
And in that way, I can see how, because my current job, I bake for my coworkers and I give them to them, and they're kind of my guinea pigs. So I can absolutely see how that it's helped me improve my baking skills tremendously, but I can see how that's facilitating or helping me grow to prepare for my next step. So just reminding myself of that will will help me endure through as long as I need to.
It's cool. So I see you with the dough, like kneading dough, and like, wow, I really hope that this makes someone's day a little bit better. So it's like you're infusing it with emotion and energy and intent, which is beautiful. What's holding you back from doing this?
Um, financials, really. I also I'm a very practical person, and I feel like I'm not quite there yet as far as where in my life I'm ready to start actually laying down the bricks of that dream.
Mhm.
I think I've started in just improving on my skill set, but I don't feel like I'm ready for that plunge. Um, it's mostly in my head. I know I overthink.
No, that's right.
So,
We have a saying on this podcast, thanks to our mutual friend Christina, that done is better than perfect. And you'll never actually get that particular recipe exactly to where you feel like, okay, this is the shit. Like I'm going to be famous Amos and I'm going to make millions of dollars on these cookies. And that's not it. Right.
no.
So baking is an aspect of it, but I would really focus on building community and bringing people together.
Mhm.
And they're having a shared experience with each other with coffee, tea, pastries, etc. That's really what it's about, because there will be this inclination for people to slow down. Not everybody will. Some people want to go back to normal. Some people want to go back to 1620, and some people want to go to 3025. So, but it's the space, and you could, just for shits and giggles, begin to look. And I'm not sure what mechanism would be available to be able to do this, but to look at cafes as you're walking around. Do you live in LA, or where are you now?
I live in Texas.
In Texas. Okay. Which part of Texas?
Yes. Dallas.
Okay. So I'm sure that there's, and I can see like 3 or 4 different neighborhoods in Dallas that I've visited. And I'm sure that there are bakeries or restaurants or cafes or sandwich shops that are closed and or shuttered.
Hmm.
And really, all you would need is a mixer, an oven, an espresso machine, and some hot water and some chairs. And the rest of it you can just fill with your energy. And
Hmm.
I'm pretty willing to bet that you can get those things for pennies on the dollar as long as you're willing to pay the rent. Right. There
Right.
will be loans, and I'm quite sure that there will be loans and things through the SBA that'll help you get off your feet. So then, as long as we've now kind of checked the financial box, we know that there are unfortunately people that have suffered, right? But
Mhm.
on the flip side of that is always an opportunity to build community. If you really want this for you and for Dustin, and specifically for you, then you'll start looking, because those places are available right now.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. I also I am planning on getting a house. So I was thinking that once I'm settled in that house, I'll have a better idea of where to move forward from there.
Yeah. What does settled
Um,
mean to you, though?
I was also thinking settle as in just I want to get a feel for the community I'm moving into.
Mm.
So we haven't even started looking seriously yet, and I intend to be a part of the community that I'm in, and I think that will help.
I need a fact check here, Christina, but I'm seeing like a house above a storefront. Like that is entirely possible.
I'm not getting much in that area for some reason. I'm getting like some things about creativity, but hold on.
Yeah. And just keep that in the back of your head and file number.
Nearby, yeah, with like, yeah, I'm getting a location that's not too off the grid.
Mhm.
It's like maybe walkable, or if not what Chris is saying. So, which, yeah, I can kind of see that. I can see how that's possible. I can see, yeah, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be pretty close, and it's going to be in not in the country per se, but
Mhm.
not particularly in the city either.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It feels
Like
small
kind of,
townish, like small community-ish. Like you
Mhm.
could put like a basket of baguettes out there and just the smell is going to, oh, Laura's baking again. Like that sort of a vibe.
Okay.
So keep that in mind while you're out there looking around.
Okay.
yes, and yeah, you can dream now. Just pretend you're
Of
looking
course.
now, because that's how you manifest, right?
Mhm.
You envision that you're going to do it. So other things that came through, and these are all like little sparks of like little seeds to plant into your brain, because you're all about creativity and kind of finding your way to people's hearts. Like you know how to do it, but they just want to throw a couple of things out there. So a long time ago, I heard the word community center, or 2 words, community center, also possible game room. And then I saw kind of a vision of like how this space can be like multi-purpose. So it's like a tea room, but it's also like there's a very, very unique twist. Like, for example, almost like there's an affirmation jar. So everybody that comes in can contribute an affirmation to the affirmation jar. Or if you're feeling a little bit low, you can take one as well. And someone's already written, and you can read the affirmation for yourself. Right. But then there's also kind of like a release jar where, you know, you or like give it away jar, like where you put some, like you put a problem on a piece of paper and you put it in the jar, and like you tell like the time and the date that you're going to burn everything inside so that it's released. You know, like little things like that are what's going to make people stay. Do you know, because you were talking about like the cafe aspect, as in, you know, people, if it's a coffee shop, people just come and go, but this makes them active part of the actual cafe. So it's actually, there's like little pieces moving all the time based on humans. And I got the visual, which I know this is close to you, of a fairy, little fairies going around. So, you know, it's almost like that kind of magic where there's all these different things to interact with. And, you know, even for the most shy person, and then, you know, they can just come in and they can feel welcome. They can contribute to jars, or they can maybe, I'm seeing like okay. So I saw, I'm a big TikTok fan and one woman, there was like a challenge on the wall for like Jacob's ladder, the, you know, the little ladder that you can climb. And it was like for 1 month or whatever. And you would put your total on the sheet. And so she was like the queen of it. And she was like, but wait a minute, here's freaking Bobby, you know, and it was like, Bobby kept one-upping her. And she was like, who is this Bobby? So it's like almost like games on the wall to where people can make their move and then leave. And then someone else comes in and makes another move. You know, just things that make them interact with the space. So, and there's an element, these are not like you have to do this, but these are just little seeds, because I know very well, and being told very well, that once you get a little bit of a spark of creativity there, you know, you can, because you're a storyteller, you can just really, really find the way for yourself and start to have little creative explosions in your brain.
Yeah, explosions, right? Yeah, every little spark ignites.
I'm already convinced I want to stop by your cafe.
Oh, you better.
Oh, sure.
Like, that sounds like a good place to be.
Yeah. If you see somebody walking into the pinwheel, then you'll be like, oh, it's that guy.
I'll probably have some out front already.
Oh.
Nice.
Chris, I know you're old enough. I don't know if you're old enough, Laura. Maybe. Do you guys remember that TV show on Nickelodeon, Pinwheel, in the early 80s, like late 70s, early 80s? Pinwheel, pinwheel, spin me around. Nobody?
I remember the song. I don't remember actually seeing it.
Yeah, we were really young. I think you're younger than me, but yeah.
I am.
That would make sense. You probably weren't alive when that came out. I was like a baby.
That was awkward. Right.
Yeah, I often forget my age because most of my friends are older than me anyway.
You old soul, you.
I am. Can't help it. I went walking with my coworker just this past weekend, and I think she's late 60s. And she was just surprised that I could have just an easygoing conversation with her, even though I'm half her age.
Wow. What do you want to ask us?
I honestly, my biggest question was about my work, and also just if this area of Texas is where I should continue thinking of settling, because I'm really comfortable here, but I don't want to necessarily feel like I'm stuck. Those are the main things.
Okay.
So you're looking around Dallas. So
Mhm.
I got kind of because I've been to Dallas, but I got kind of it's a small town feel, but it's still like civilization. And I got okay. Is there a Tyler, Texas?
Yes.
Okay. So it's like kind of like somewhere, I know that's a big area between Dallas and Tyler, maybe
Mhm.
somewhere in the middle. I don't know if that's where you're
Okay.
already looking, but like just look over there. But that kind of mix of density, population density.
Okay. Yeah.
What I had heard,
I tend to like suburb areas, but go
Right.
ahead.
no, it's just I was like, I heard like, tell her to move to Austin. I'm like, no, like everybody's moving to Austin.
Hey, you never
But
know.
but but you said Tyler, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll spill the beans. So there's a good space between San Antonio and Austin, right?
Mhm.
So you have access to arts, shows, diversity, both drivable. I'm making this up, but I want to say the distance between both is no more than 2 hours, like with regular traffic. Could be a little bit more,
Mhm.
but because of the metropolitan growth and the rate of growth there, people are going to be experiencing the same sort of disconnection that they're running away from today, right? So in leaving Los Angeles,
Mhm.
the Bay Area, et cetera, right? So there
Mhm.
are still small towns in and around Austin or between San Antonio and Austin that feel very right energetically because you have access, and it's almost like people are coming to that area where you may be and where your business is because they want that connection. They want that smaller town community feel, right? It's like, oh, I'm open for
Mhm.
business. Like, this is just come on in,
Mhm.
right? Make yourself comfortable, come hang out for a couple of hours. That feels really appropriate.
Okay. That's interesting. Justin's aunt and uncle live about there,
Okay.
halfway between Austin and San
Oh, no
Antonio.
kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is for my own edification, what is the driving time in between both?
I'm not positive.
All right,
I
I'll,
would say between 3 and 4 hours.
okay.
So,
I thought it was a little bit closer because I know that because I made the drive from Austin to Dallas in 3.5 hours.
well, yes, so from Dallas to Austin, but I mean from San Antonio. I've never been, so
I
I'm not
think,
quite sure between
yeah,
San Antonio and Austin.
when I got deported from Korea, I landed in a little town north of Austin, Texas, called Taylor, Texas, not Tyler,
Mhm.
but Taylor, Texas, and um, I lived
Hour
there
and
for.
45 minutes.
I'm sorry.
An hour and 45 minutes.
Yep.
Oh, between them, yeah, I was about to say I thought it was like an hour and a half. When maybe I wasted my time, but I didn't really venture out to San Antonio when I lived in Austin.
I like San Antonio.
Never been.
I've been once when I was really young, but I lived in Houston for a long time, so I'm used to that area, and I would never go back.
Yeah.
To
Despite how much my
Houston.
family wants me to, I do not want to live in Houston.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then Tyler, it looks like it's just due east and a little bit south of Dallas. So that's worth taking a look at too.
Yeah, a little far, a little small town for me, but the area in between is growing a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, out of necessity, right? I mean, and
Yeah.
both sounds are great. So I think you would find some of what you might be looking for there.
Mhm.
That's
Very
fun.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Food for thought.
So, do you have any other questions for us?
Um, I have a lot of questions regarding my family.
Mm.
Everybody's in a state of moving right now. It's in a flux. We tend to move around the same time as each other unintentionally. Um, so I'm buying a house. My parents just bought a house. My oldest brother just bought a house 6 months ago, and my other siblings are selling their house and getting a new one. But more than anything, I'm just worried about the well-being of each one of them.
Mm.
There's a lot of chaos in my family right now.
So I'm getting, don't worry too much about the older ones. It's like the younger ones that maybe need a little looking after. And I'm asking how you can support the younger members of your family, which I'm guessing are like nieces, nephews to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Phone calls, FaceTimes, because you're kind of a healer as well. And
Mm-hmm.
just by knowing someone's calling and saying hello, that might make a huge difference, even if you don't see the tangible, like other side of it. So I'm getting, just connection, phone calls, even letter writing, little things like that of connection,
Mm-hmm.
especially with everything kind of in chaos. So it's not just your family, it's pretty much the world. So it's probably
True.
making it's
Very
like
true.
shaking the box of bees, right? So
Yeah. Or gnats.
or yeah, I'm like watching them like fly around. So the moments of rage you see is not because I get unsavory information. It's I want to punch gnats in the face. So yeah, so little bits of connection like that.
Okay.
So what I'm getting, so I saw someone working with you, right? So it's like someone like to your right and a little bit further back, smaller, right? I'm not sure how tall you are, but it's just they seem smaller. Male, if I didn't mention that, and someone that is really, really lost, and you wouldn't necessarily know it by looking at them.
Okay.
And it's almost like so I can just like feel him crying right now. And just not knowing what to do next, and almost kind of hopeless. Is this how it's going to be for the rest of my life? Not knowing where I belong, what to do, where I fit in. And if someone's coming to mind who this might be, the right way to have that conversation is saying, "Hey, I was thinking about you and I want to know how you're doing." No, how are you really? How are you really doing? Right. As I know there's a lot going on, right, and just in the world around, and I know it's just been really hard for me. And I've been thinking about you. And does someone come to mind that kind of fits that profile?
I'm not sure. I'm not tall.
Yeah,
But
and I think
so most of
so. I
my
think the
family is a lot
size.
taller than me, but
I think that's metaphorical, right? So just in terms of where you are and how you
right,
carry yourself and your presence and your
Maybe younger.
gravitas, confidence,
right.
certainly,
I
certainly.
was I was gonna say I have a big energy, so I can fully understand that. I guess it would be easier to pinpoint if I knew if this person was older or younger than me.
Younger.
I get it younger too.
Okay. Then I'm not quite sure. I tend to be a magnet for people who feel lost. So it could be somebody that I just haven't talked to in a while.
I don't know that this person knows that they're lost. I don't know that they can
Okay.
put the right word on what they're feeling right now,
Mm-hmm.
but something's off.
Mm.
And it's not like it's suicidal, but they don't know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like they're grasping out, not inside the family, but like
Mm-hmm.
looking for some sort of connection. And it could be drugs, could be alcohol, could be unsavory characters, it could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, nope, that's not it. Well, at least this person's
Mm-hmm.
talking to me, but finding some sort of satisfaction in community. And these things tend to then pile up, right?
Mm-hmm.
To a place where then somebody starts just finding themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time, not because they're bad, but because it's like, well, I'll try this and see if this makes me feel better. Nope, that's not it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how does this make me feel?
Okay.
So I don't know if there's any history of chemical dependence in any part of your family, or like in-laws of someone that might be part of the family. That's kind of worth tuning into. But if there's a couple of people that fit the profile, and just thinking about you, I
Mm-hmm.
want to see how you're doing, and let them drive it. You don't have to fix them,
Mm-hmm.
but make yourself available.
Okay. I guess the main person in my family that would fit that is my brother-in-law. And actually, he is shorter than me.
Hmm.
But he and my sister are actually separated right now, so I can definitely. I've reached out to him once or twice in the last year, so I could definitely see if that's where it's coming from.
So, I mean, there's the family connection here, right? And there's the fact
Yeah.
that it's your sister's ex-husband. And perhaps you and Christina have also spent time talking about soul level connections, right? And so it's easy to say, well, okay, he's my brother-in-law separated from my sister, but what's the true nature of that relationship, and what agreements maybe exist that you perhaps made before you came back as Laura and Steve? And so maybe there's a transaction there that needs to happen so you can fulfill this like soul level contract, if that's something that you can accept as being a possibility, let alone true or not. But if that's possible, then you could ask, like, well, I wonder what that is. Like, what agreement would I have made to serve this person, and what agreement would they have made for me in return? And that's a great thing to work with Christina as well, to understand the true nature of the relationship that we've made. And maybe your sister wouldn't get that, right? Maybe, but that's not for her. That's for you and for this person.
Fascinatingly, we share the same birthday. So, yeah, I'll definitely reach out and see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. He was one of the people that I had thought of initially, but I wasn't sure.
It's possible.
Like I said, there are quite a few people in my life that aren't necessarily related to me who reach out, or that I reach out to them whenever I randomly think of them. And he's been one of them this year, but I can definitely cultivate that a little bit more.
Yeah. This person doesn't feel like a reacher outer.
No. So I tend to reach out more than other people.
She's a connector.
I love it. Empowered by wine. Wine.
Oh, yes.
Great memories of Korea or when she has a lot of wine. not because crazy things happen. It's just, no. It's just, well, every time we got together, but because, it was for the Friday night wine nights, but no, it's just because I don't know. It's just very fun to see you enjoy yourself. But you'll never see her dangling off the skyscraper or anything like that. She's not that kind of drunk.
I don't get drunk very easily, so.
Yeah, true.
Well, I know we're getting towards the top of the hour. Do you have? Is there another question, Laura?
Yes.
Let's do it.
I was honestly more interested to see what you guys would bring up out of the other. I guess the last thing I wanted to touch base on is one of my intentions when getting a new house is having a garden and actually having our handfasting in our backyard. So having my wedding ceremony in the backyard. And my mind is that I'm doing a lot of the stuff for my own wedding. So I'm curious to know if I should just let loose and let somebody else do it, or if it can still be not so stressful if I work on it myself.
So what I got was, how much do you want to enjoy the wedding in the process? Right.
Yeah. I got, you can pay in time or you can pay in money. What do you want?
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
But as far as like a backyard, I do see you getting a pretty substantial backyard, but it's going to be a fixer upper backyard. It's going to be a little neglected and you're going to have to give it some care in the future, which might be pretty much every backyard, but you would definitely have to plan it out.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it depends on when your wedding is. Maybe you would want to, I don't know, save that for another time or something like that. So
yeah, my vote is for enjoy. Right. And I don't, it doesn't feel like Dustin would be helping a lot with it.
Okay. Yeah,
All right. Yeah. And that's not fair. And I don't want to try and understand, the nature of that part of your relationship. But what you don't want is for that to cause any resentment not towards yourself or not towards him, right? So you're better off just
Yeah.
hiring someone to do it. You can just focus on finding little sacred things you want to put in your happy place and looking for a way to build community around pastries.
Mhm.
And just
Okay.
infusing those little things with love.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
badass bagel, bitch.
You know what? Once he said that, I just got something about the wedding. If you are thinking about catering it yourself or any madness like that, or like, oh, I'll make the groom's cake or something like that, don't. I got a big don't around that because that's gonna, yeah, I know. I got a big don't. And
Good
I
to know.
mean, yeah,
What about
I
the
mean,
wedding cake at least?
You can make a wedding cake for someone else and get paid for it.
I'm already doing that.
Yep.
well, the reason why, because I'm like, what's the reason? And it's like, while it would be fun, the message, like the plot is lost because you're going to be focusing on tasty treats for everybody. But really you should be doing is enjoying being a bride, and brides are not baking before that. Like if this would be a little bit different, like if you wanted to do like your own backyard and party favors and whatever, fine, that's like up to you. But with food, when it's like about like something spoiling, something that's time sensitive, you can't make a wedding cake a week and a half out, and have it taste good. So like that's why the food thing, it's like you'll thank us later if you listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the main point really, is because I was thinking of catering and baking myself. But
I mean,
then
it's up to you.
I know, but logically I was thinking about it and thinking like, how would I have the time to do
Right.
everything and still have my wedding? Which is the whole point of me asking, because I did have doubts.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
So it's nice to know that my worries are vindicated.
And hopefully this is something you only do once, right? So enjoy
Hopefully.
She'll only do it once.
Oh yeah.
And if you need more convincing, think of it this way. Think of it like, what would happen if you bite off more than you can chew and something happens right before the wedding and you cannot produce any of the baked goods? Like, what are you going to do? And like the madness behind solving that problem. It's like, there's going to be hungry guests at my wedding. I have to have some food, that kind of worry. Whereas if it's a professional, if their oven goes out, they just go find an oven, like that's their only worry. But yours is like, oh my God, we are short 5 chairs, everything that can go wrong kind of deal. So it's just like, and we wouldn't want you wait late to your own ceremony.
No. So I had I closed my eyes and I saw a bunch of super bright, happy stuffed animals, like in the background, like yay! That was cool. Yeah.
Is there something we don't know about your family? No,
I have a lot of nieces and nephews. That's all I can think of.
Yeah.
Really stuffy. Awesome.
Again, I think
Stuffed
it's the
with
fun
pastries.
element.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, Laura, every time, like, you're just someone, if I had to pick a list of the top 10 people that I admire and cherish very much for my time in Korea, you would definitely be on that list. And I was there for 12 years. And that just, it just demonstrates the impact that you have on people and the impact that you had on me. And I am just so happy that I thought of you to come on here. I was like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? She's got to come. And I knew you would say yes. So I'm so glad I asked. And thank you for saying yes and giving us the pleasure and the honor of serving you today.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
It was great meeting you, Chris. And honestly, I'm all up for all kinds of conversations of this nature. I just enjoy them, as well as enjoy people who also really have a good understanding, because I'm so open to it as well. And Christina, you're definitely on my top 10. So, so thank you for inviting me, because it's really been a pleasure.
Just keep paying attention to those things that inspire awe and just lean into those, and that will guide you very effectively.
Well, thanks, Chris, as well.
Always a pleasure.
It's so cool that I just want to note how cool it is that the synergy, the way the world works, the way Earth works, because here I am with my friend Laura from Korea, from my past. Like that was a very sacred time in my life. And here I am with the present Chris McCann. And it's just so interesting how you guys are here talking together. I'm just like, oh my God, my mind is blown. I don't know.
And we're both bakers, right?
Yeah.
Are you?
Oh,
Fabulous.
I didn't know that, Chris. Well, Chris will be moving
Really?
to Santa Monica. So, no, I didn't know you're a baker.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know you're a
Like-
baker in another way, but not in a
No,
flour.
like a legit like baker. Like I can make
no. Okay. No, I knew that about you.
like
I was thinking like Betty Crocker-ish. I forgot your family had the bakery. Sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
oh yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And so what inspired me the most, Laura, and what has me like in a little bit of awe about the conversation. So I kept reflecting back on my own experience and growing up in a family of bakers. And it's like, wow, like to think that someone could actually like find that much joy in creating something that brings people together and can provide nutrients or nutrition depending on what you're baking, but that either makes you feel good energetically or spiritually or emotionally or whatever it might be. That is beautiful, right? So I'm all for this idea, and just you finding great satisfaction and peace in doing that with yourself and for other people.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's really cool. I'm really the only one that enjoys baking in my family. I mean, everybody can cook to a degree, but I love both cooking and baking. So it's nice to hear that somebody from a similar back or from a baker background would find that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Awesome.
Okay, I'm even more blown away now by this.
There are no
Small
accidents.
world, small
Yeah.
world.
Well, ciao, ladies.
Ciao.
All right.